Hello everyone, this is Allegedly Caleb, and I'm up at the crack of dawn to tell you that Panzer Campaign Sicily 43 is currently the Game of the Week for WDS's Game of the Week sale. So this game is currently on sale for about $30 US. So let's take a look at what the game offers. First, a little background, and I'm going to click into the main campaign. So I'm going to sort it by length. There we go. You got two variants of the main campaign as well. There you go. Okay. So, Sicily 43 has the entire map of Sicily in it, and it will contain the whole invasion. Now, this takes place right after the Allies kicked the Axis out of Tunisia, and the next logical step for them was invading Sicily so that they could basically directly threaten the Italian mainland. So, how did this plan work? Well, you had the Commonwealth forces push up the east side of the island, specifically along this coastline around Mount Etna. And then you had Patton's forces push around the west side of the island. And if I remember right, he basically took the route all the way around the island, and their goal was Messina. So you can see that up here. This is the port city that the Axis were withdrawing their units from. There's a tiny little, not a land bridge, but excuse me. The tip of the boot of Italy is very close to the northeast over here. So the Axis were trying to pull out a bunch of their forces, and they succeeded fairly well. The Allied invasion of Sicily is known as like a bitter defeat, or a bitter victory. They took Sicily, but they were not able to do so quickly enough so that a lot of the Axis forces were able to escape. I believe there were 2 or 3 Panzer divisions on this island as well, which very few of the Allied commanders actually knew about until very late. In addition, there was I don't want to say a botched airborne landing, because the airborne troops were actually able to do a lot beforehand, but there was an airborne landing before the rest of the forces took the beach, and it was not nearly as organized as what happened with D-Day. The troops were scattered way throughout. Some of them were dropped right next to Panzer divisions, so they had a tough time with that. But anyway, there was also one other situation where one of the reinforcing regiments of one of those airborne divisions was basically impacted heavily by friendly fire from friendly anti-aircraft guns that shot a bunch of those planes down as they were coming in to reinforce. So this was not a perfect campaign for the Allies. But let's take a look at the map. So none of the Allied forces are going to be on this map quite yet, but you can see it's quite a mountainous map. It's not easy terrain to get around on, that is for sure. A lot of it's broken. You can see the initial layout of the Axis forces. I believe they'll get some reinforcements. And the Axis do get Tigers in this scenario too. They get a couple units of Tigers, that are connected to, excuse me, they're connected to the Hermann Göring Division. Yep. Is that all of them? I think there might be another unit somewhere. Anyway, you can see these units are prepared to counterattack at Gela, which is what happened historically. And you got all the little Italian coastal units. They all start off, a lot of them start off disrupted because they were unprepared essentially for the Allies to land. So you see here some of the landing beaches. Another landing beach. Some more of the landing beaches. These places where you see the Allied supply, those tend to be landing spots. Excuse me. Anyway, see more landing areas. You got Syracuse, the classic city of Syracuse over here, worth quite a lot of victory points. Now, as the Allies, you can't, well, you can, I think, win. Well, you have to get 1,400 victory points to win. There's a lot of victory points on the map, but you do have to destroy Axis forces to win. You can't just win purely based off of getting these victory points, if I remember right. Because you can see, I think the biggest victory points are only about like 500 points. Okay, this one's 3,500. So that's the big one. Otherwise, most of the other victory points, see this one's 250, 500, 250. Bunch of the ones along the main road. Now this is where the forces of the Commonwealth got tied up, because they had way less ground and a bunch of rivers they had to cross, and the Axis were able to defend a lot easier over there. Gala's got some victory points attached, but again, it doesn't look like many of these places have a whole bunch of victory points. So, yeah, this one's got 1,000. Palmero. If I remember right, that was Patton's objective at first, but then he was able to take his units and push all the way down to Messina before I can't remember his name right now, but the guy in charge of Montgomery, before Montgomery's units were able to get there. So this looks like quite a fun campaign. You can see some black shirts. Not very good stats. You'd think their morale would be higher, but I guess maybe not. Anyway, I'm going to take a look at a couple more of their units. You got some little Italian tanks. These tank destroyers, or these are more like assault guns. These guys were not bad, actually. They're similar to the Stug. Some Panzer Grenadiers. More black shirts. took a look at these guys. This is the Hermann Göring division. They've got some Marder 2s, Panzer Grenadiers. You can see more tanks, Panzer 3s and Panzer 4s. And of course some 88s. What's down here? Just some more Panzer Grens. Got some Italian tanks. What are these? Huh. Just some tank destroyers, I guess. More Italian units. Now the Italians are not great. So I mean, it's a little bit better because you can use the terrain to your advantage. But again, as I'm pretty sure most people know at this point, the Italians underperformed in World War II. Some assault guns there. Oh, got some Renault R35s. Those are old. Ooh, even some armored trains. Those are old French tanks right here. The Germans mostly used them in like training roles for the rest of their actual tank men, but not all the time. Whatever those guys are. I don't know what kind of tank those are. More Panzer Grens. More Italian units, some more Renaults, and some of these guys. They can be useful. Of course they can be useful, especially against infantry that doesn't have much anti-tank capacity. But against like real tanks, I wouldn't put them against those. More Panzer 4s and 3s. Yeah, more Panzer Grens. These are good Panzer Grens. You can see morale level B. More Italians. I already looked at these guys in Etna, did I? Maybe not. I think I did. Yeah. Got another Panzer Gren unit. Interesting. They're fixed. Well, let's look at the scheduled. So you're going to have mostly Allied units. Yeah, a couple times you get Axis units. Here you can see some, you're going to get some, what are those called? Fallschirmjägers. You'll get some more Panzer Grens, but not much. You gotta hold those areas to get them too. So for the most part, what you start with is what you gotta use. But there are some axis reinforcements. Not many though. Some Panzers. And the Allies have reinforcements just pouring in the whole time, as expected. So, let's take a look at the strengths. This is an idea of the side disparity we can see here. So you've got 1,200, almost 1,300 VP for axis strength, and then you've got 1,700, almost 1,800 for allied strength. Now, a lot of this might come from ships and from reinforcements that you don't get for a long time, but there's still quite a disparity. 99 ships, so all of those count. Let's see, 948 planes versus 230. That's a major advantage for the Allies. 1,100 vehicles versus 760 vehicles. 80,000 men, 82,000 men. So manpower-wise, they're pretty similar. So this is quite the interesting scenario. We'll take a look really quick at some of the other games. Oh, and this scenario is 350 turns too. There's another, oh, the variant that I'm looking at is 381. There's a couple different scenarios actually. This one has different invasion plans. And then the axis can select the placement for the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division. Interesting. This one has stronger Allied forces. This one has stronger Axis forces. And this one gets both. Alright. So you got Dime Beach, the Joss Beach, Decision at Gala, let's see what a smaller scenario will look like. Yeah, so you've got the Americans who've pushed in. They've got some tanks, but they're mostly disrupted. In fact, most of their units are still disrupted. Over here too. They've connected with some of their airborne forces. You can see those airborne guys are scattered out. Essentially, they're trying to hold off some of the incoming Axis forces. So the Axis, meanwhile, have a bunch of Italian and German units in travel mode coming on down. It's 10 a.m. This looks like an interesting scenario. Decision at Gala. Here's an interesting one. This one looks like, from what I read, you're going to have some airborne forces drop somewhere. It says a second bridge too far. That's what it was called. Maybe they drop right here. Anyway, so you've got all of these Allied forces, the Germans, a whole bunch of Germans, against a mix of Italians and Germans. The Germans have like Stugs. Also, they got these crappy little guys. It looks like the only good armored unit. Oh no, but here's more Stugs. Okay. Yeah, there looks like there's some fun scenarios here. Race for Messina. This is that scenario when the Axis, or when the Allied armies were racing each other to get to Messina. You can see why it was so difficult for the British to make it. You got these guys in their way. Plus they still have some armor too. At this point, not much though. Now the Allies over on this group's side, it's going to be much easier for them to reach Messina. You can see there are not nearly as many good Axis forces over here. There's hardly any Axis forces over here, really. You just got those couple of infantry battalions. And then after that, like, nothing. These guys have less than 50 men, less than Or those guys only have like 55 men in them. Jeez. This scenario seems impossible for the Axis player. But we'll see. Anyway, everyone, that will be everything from my look at Sicily 43. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to give the video a like and even subscribe if you're feeling up to it. But anyway, everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.